We are live. Excellent. Get everybody going here. Let's see if we can. There we go. Now we're getting some folks jumping on. Welcome, everyone. Here we go. We're on day 2 of the Brain Health Summit and here on Substack. And today we have Dr. Annie Fenn. So, welcome, Annie. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, hi, Lori. Thanks for having me. Hi, everybody.
Excellent. Now we're starting to get people warming up here. And, Annie runs the Brain Health Kitchen Substack. And she's going to talk to us a little bit about her food pyramid, which is fantastic because this is really important because if it's good for your brain, it's probably good for everything else in your body. So I think this is probably the better food pyramid to be paying attention to these days.
I
I will
definitely
leave it
take the
there.
brain first approach to nutrition.
I
And it's
like that.
exactly what you said. If you're eating for your brain health, then you're taking care of your cardiovascular system, your immune system, your mental health. We have studies back up all of those things.
Perfect. But before we jump into that real quick, I just like everyone to just kind of, if you could introduce yourself in the sense of you're OB-GYN and then you went to, culinary medicine, so to speak. And could you just kind of share us a little bit of your story? Because I really think that's kind of a really important aspect of who you are.
Oh, sure. So I'm an obstetrician gynecologist and I live in Jackson, Wyoming. And I started a practice here that I had for 20 years. In the last 10 years of my practice, I stopped delivering babies to focus on menopausal women. I became a menopausal health expert. I was one of the first in the country back then. We're talking like circa 2000. Nobody was talking
Wow.
about menopause back then. So that was my real interest. And so I practiced menopausal medicine for 10 years. And
Fantastic.
then about 20 years in, I just, it's hard to describe, but I felt something pulling at me, like I needed to do something with the creative side of my brain.
Mm,
I was bogged down by the day-to-day of being a busy doctor. And I'd always wanted to go to culinary school, like my entire life. And so that's what I did. I said goodbye to my patients. I have a very understanding husband, and I gave up my practice, went to culinary
wow.
school, and I came back, started teaching healthy cooking in my community because I had this really naive idea that if I could just show people how to make healthy food delicious, it would be so much better for their health than all the things I've been doing in my medical career. So this became Brain Health Kitchen when my mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. This
Wow.
was around 2015. She was first diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment, which went on to be Alzheimer's. And, as a doctor, the first thing you do when you have a relative diagnosed with anything is you do the deepest dive in the literature that you've ever done. And I was looking for ways to slow progression. And what I found way back then, 2014, 15, was that there is a dietary pattern that
Mm,
protects the brain from even getting Alzheimer's in the first place, but someone who has early dementia can actually slow progression. So I
wow.
decided to focus 100% on brain health, and I created Brain Health Kitchen as a cooking school, and then it became a book, and then it became a
Amazing.
Substack, and a community that is worldwide where I take people on retreats to places from longevity, hotspots, and
Yes.
it's become a beautiful worldwide community. I'm very, very
Uh,
fortunate.
I've seen some of your pictures and stuff from your trips. They look amazing and definitely worth checking out, guys. So, but let's dive into the Brain Health Kitchen food pyramid and you're sharing your book. So, if you kind of guide us through what can we expect?
Sure. Sure. So when I wrote The Brain Health Kitchen, Preventing Alzheimer's Through Food, this is my tattered initial copy
It's
from
a
the
love
publisher.
book.
I take it to all my classes, all my retreats. I even have like all my guests sign it.
Oh, wow.
Anyways, so when I was researching for this book around 2021, 22, I wanted to create guidelines for brain healthy eating that was accessible to everybody. There
Mm,
was a vegan cookbook. There was, like strictly Mediterranean books. But I wanted to bring everyone into the fold, no matter what kind of dietary pattern they had. And so I came up with the Brain Health Kitchen Food Pyramid, which is a synopsis of all the data,
awesome.
which is still current about how to eat for your brain.
Okay.
So it's my interpretation of all the scientific data. And in general, it draws heavily on the Mediterranean diet or
Okay.
Mediterranean style pattern and the MIND diet, which are
Hmm.
two brain protective patterns that we have the most data on to show that it protects the brain from dementia.
Perfect. So, where do we start with maybe the base, the foundation of where we should begin?
Yeah, we start at the bottom. I'm going to go
Okay.
through the 10 brain healthy food groups real quick.
Okay.
And then we can dive in. And if you all have questions about specific food groups, then we'd be happy to start there. So at the
Perfect.
very base is vegetables. Okay. We know eating your vegetables is important for your health and your brain health. It's particularly important for brain health. We can
Mm.
go into some of the reasons why in a minute. The next one is leafy greens. Now, in brain protective studies, leafy greens is singled out as its own food group.
Oh,
If
that's
you can
interesting.
if you can picture the Mediterranean diet pyramid, then you'll see, I would think everyone has seen that. Then
Yeah.
you'll see like the bottom of the pyramid is all these fruits and vegetables and greens and walnuts and
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
So leafy greens are kind of lumped together here. And this was from the Mind diet. They took them out because they had specific data showing that people that ate leafy greens at least a cup a day, their brains look better, younger on MRI, like
Wow.
11 years younger. So
Wow.
leafy greens became its own food group in the Mind
Okay.
diet. And I
Okay.
continued that. The next one is whole grains.
Okay.
Whole grains is not controversial. A lot of people think it may be. We're not talking about gluten-free versus not here.
Right.
We have tons of data to show that eating whole grains is great for any kind of dietary pattern, but especially your brain health.
Yes.
And then the next one is berries.
Yes.
Everyone knows berries are good for their brain, right?
Yes.
Berries are associated with memory, doing better on memory tests. Berries are the only fruit that is called out as an official brain healthy food group.
Okay. Okay. Very
And
good.
that's based on data, like all of
Yeah.
this. Next one is beans and legumes.
Hmm.
No surprise there. It's one of the food groups that's common to all the blue zones on Earth,
Yes.
whether it's Costa Rica or Okinawa, Japan, or Sardinia. Beans and legumes are on the table almost every day.
Okay.
The next one is nuts and seeds.
Yes.
Now, nuts comes right from the cardiovascular literature.
Right.
You know, I don't remember how many years ago it was published that if you eat a handful of nuts 4 to 5 days a week, it reduces your risk of heart attack and stroke.
Yes.
This we've known for a long time. I
Yes.
added seeds because a lot of people are allergic to nuts, and
Hmm.
seeds are amazing, and they have a
Yes.
lot of the same brain health properties, the monounsaturated fats, the flavonoids,
Hmm.
all those little nutrients,
Hmm.
and besides, seeds are fun, so I
Yes.
added those. Next one in blue there is fish and seafood.
Okay.
There's a lot we can talk about in this food category, but it's
Yeah.
a very important brain protective food group. Very, very
Okay.
important. The next one I added is fermented food in orange. There's a little mason jar.
Okay.
And this wasn't addressed in the Mediterranean diet studies, in the Mind diet, in the Green Med diet, and a lot of these studies that were quoting that reduced dementia rates. So I'm drawing from studies out of Stanford that
Okay.
showed that when you add fermented food to your diet, even just a few servings a day, it increases the diversity of your gut microbiome, which we
Hmm.
know is really key for brain health.
Absolutely.
So I put that mason jar there just so people would think, oh, I should eat a fermented food pretty much every day.
I love that. Okay.
And that's why. And then in yellow, so as we get to the top of the pyramid, we're getting, that we're eating less of these food groups, right? We can still
Right.
include them, but there's less. And the one in yellow is meat, poultry, and eggs.
Okay.
Highly controversial food group. None of the brain protective diets had even talked about eggs
Uh-huh.
because it was so controversial. And
Yep.
also the data was flip-flopping from year to year.
Right.
1 year eggs are bad for us. Next, they
Yep.
prevent Alzheimer's. Like, what's the truth?
Right.
Yeah, as usual, it's somewhere in the middle.
Right. But if you want to conclude it, you have it at the top, and that's
Mhm.
fine. And there's choline, actually, which is important for your brain health and nerves. So,
Yeah, choline's very important. And this food group is where it's most important to individualize,
yeah.
based on your personal health vulnerabilities. Is your cholesterol high? Things like that. And
Okay.
meat also was never on the pyramid before. Meat was always kind of lumped into foods to avoid.
Mm.
Okay. Because, until very recently, the studies were lumping processed meat products with
Hmm.
unprocessed meat products.
Right.
And then just a few years ago, a great study came out of the UK Biobank and a few others that showed that if you eat unprocessed meat, it's actually may reduce your dementia risk. But
Hmm.
processed meat is some of the worst foods for the brain. Absolute worst
Processed
foods for the brain.
anything, as with
Yeah,
any food group, any process,
exactly. And processed
ultra processed.
meat and processed dairy are especially bad for the brain.
Man. Okay.
So there's a lot of caveats in the meat, poultry, and eggs food
Yeah.
category. I have a
Right.
chapter in my book for each of these rungs. What else can I tell you? Oh, at the top, I put sweets because, I don't wanna live in a world where I can have a brownie or a cookie. I
You can
just
have
I just
healthy sweets.
Yeah, and I have a lot of recipes in my Substack and on my book for, filling these treats with fiber, nutrient-dense ingredients, getting
Awesome.
away from all-purpose white flour, getting away from white sugar. So my rule of thumb for sugar is there has to be fiber to,
Right.
help reduce the glycemic response. So, yes,
100%.
we can have treats, but we're very strategic about the treats we include.
Absolutely.
And then there's
Absolutely.
2 more categories. One is
Okay.
extra virgin olive oil,
Okay.
which is the primary cooking oil of the Mediterranean diet. It's included as a brain healthy food group in the Mayan diet, and I also mirror that. I pretty much cook all of my food in extra virgin olive oil except for a few circumstances.
Okay.
And
You
then
said two.
the last one is coffee, tea, and water.
Okay. There's coffee's got some amazing data, and I'm just diving into the tea research, but it's pretty impressive.
Yes.
I wish I liked coffee. I don't like the taste.
Yeah, well, tea, especially green tea, performs very well in
Green
brain
tea,
healthy
Trader
studies.
Joe's.
There you go. There you go. No, it's a very good brain healthy habit. Tons of catechins,
Mhm.
EGCG, all these particular polyphenols are good for the brain. But that
Mhm.
10th brain healthy food group in the Mediterranean diet study, in the Mind diet, was red wine.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so it wasn't until really 2021 when another big study came out of the UK Biobank, another one in the British Medical Journal. You probably remember when these made a big splash, showing that moderate drinking, like we used to talk about as
Mhm.
being maybe okay,
Mhm.
as opposed to being harmful, that whole theory is completely gone. So now we know that there's no amount of alcohol that's safe for the brain,
Right.
and if you drink at all, light drinking is the best way to go, which is
Mhm.
defined as under 6 a week. So I took red wine off the pyramid, and
Good.
I added the things that we know are actually really good for you, like coffee, tea, and of course, water. You have to be very
Excellent.
hydrated to have a brain that's thriving.
So important. One of my tiny habits I tell people is just get up and drink water. Like the first thing, like reinflate the brain. It's like rehydrate. Here we go. Simple, simple thing you can do. But we had a question here. Let me grab it from Ali. She said, I thought the ApoE4 carriers, a low carbohydrate, low Mediterranean diet was best. How are whole grains therefore such a large group? Any thoughts on that?
It's true. So when we get into specific recommendations for ApoE4 carriers,
Mhm.
and for listeners that don't know what that is a gene variant for Alzheimer's. And whatever, brain healthy recommendations we make, especially dietary, we're going to be like even more strict in that group.
Mhm.
And it's true. It's a fiber rich, low glycemic dietary pattern that is
Mhm.
most helped for ApoE4s. This can include whole grains. I
Mhm.
think most people, when they think of whole grains, they think of like flour tortillas and hamburger
Mhm.
buns and bread and
Right.
English muffins and bagels and things
Right.
like that.
Right.
So any of those are none of those are
Whole
whole
grain.
grains.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
what we're talking about is, whole grain bread that's truly whole grain, where wheat is the number 1 ingredient,
Mhm. Mhm.
or we're talking about different types of rice that are whole
Mhm.
grain, like red rice, black rice, forbidden rice,
Mhm.
purple rice, all those varieties are whole grain. We're talking about seeds that we consider grains, like
Right.
quinoa and millet.
Mhm.
Quinoa is an amazing grain to have
Mhm.
in your dietary pattern because of its protein and amino acid content. We're talking about oats, especially in their most whole form. It's
Mhm.
not like go ahead to drink as much oat milk as you want. The more those
No.
oats get chopped up or blended, the greater their glycemic response. So we're talking
Right.
about like oats, steel cut oats or whole oats that you
Yeah.
cook from scratch.
Growed oats. That's a hearty meal. Growed oats.
It's a hearty meal, and it takes a little bit of getting used to.
A lot of
But,
chewing.
and if you're ApoE4, you may dial back. Like I said, these are guidelines for everyone, but
Yeah.
they should be individualized. Okay, like
Perfect.
you might be a hyper responder for cholesterol, and
Mm.
so you decide to take eggs out of your diet.
Right.
You
Right.
may be ApoE4 positive, so you decide that you're not going to emphasize whole grains as much as the
Mhm.
leafy greens and the vegetables and the legumes.
Perfect. So in your book, does it give guidance to these specific subgroups of individuals who may need to, or is it more just a general, like, here's the foundational, and then you can decide what you'd like to do based on your preferences
Yeah,
or
I talk
needs?
a lot about this is more Substack 'cause it's kind of long
Gotcha.
form discussions, interactions
Gotcha.
with subscribers. We talk
Okay.
about this all the time in my Substack. Like, this is the foundation based on science. What you do, what I encourage people to do is build their own brain healthy pyramid.
Perfect.
And it's based on what they like to eat, whether or not they like to cook, what their health situation is, what their health vulnerabilities may be,
Yeah.
and what their goals are with their health and what they're eating. And
Right.
all of these can be accommodated as long as you keep the big picture in mind.
I think that's fantastic. There was another question regarding microplastic and mercury in seafood. Is there a limit that you recommend? And we're also, by the way, going to be talking about microplastics and the brain health on Thursday with Dr. Dominic. So just keep that in mind, guys. But is there any suggestions you have around that?
Yes, absolutely. So I want to show you my pyramid for fish and seafood
Okay.
because when I created this pyramid, it was done with three things in mind.
Okay.
Number one was how many omega 3 fats do you get from the fish and seafood? Okay,
Okay.
that's what makes it brain healthy.
Right.
Number two, is it sustainable? Is it good for the planet?
Mm,
And number three, does it accumulate environmental toxins? And
mm,
so this is the fish and seafood pyramid. And I can
okay.
share this in notes if you want. I put it up on notes before too, but I
Okay.
can share it again. But basically, the bottom are the little fish, like sardines and anchovies.
Okay.
And then the second rung are cold water fish, like cod and wild caught salmon.
Okay.
Okay. Now, when you add microplastics into the mix, it
Yeah.
changes things a little because
Yeah.
these bottom feeders they're filter feeders too.
Right.
Also, like the bivalves, like mussels, they tend to filter out the microplastics.
Yeah.
And if you eat the entire fish, like if you're eating an anchovy and you haven't gutted it, you're
Hmm.
eating its intestinal system, right?
Right.
And so there may be a slightly increased risk of microplastic exposure in these
Gotcha.
little fish in bivalves. But there's a real risk of not getting enough omega 3 from food if people cut back on fish and seafood.
Mm,
I mean, low intake of fish and seafood is actually a risk factor for Alzheimer's disease. It's been shown in
mm,
many, many studies.
interesting.
So taking omega 3 supplements is one way to get around that.
Hmm.
Okay, because they're purified now and the microplastics are filtered out.
Yep.
Or just choosing from the middle of my pyramid, which tends to be, you know, good fish and seafood that's
Gotcha.
lower in microplastics.
Perfect. Yeah, and I think we're gonna share your article around, in the summary here. I'll put a link to that specifically about how to avoid, the toxins and things that we need to worry about. So that is a fantastic resource there for those who want to consume fish in their diet. And then another question: what about the new studies supporting coffee as a deterrent to dementia? Any word thoughts on that?
Yeah, so that study was great. There's another study that I like even more that came out at the end of 2024, which is actually the largest study on coffee ever done in the
Okay.
UK Biobank, and it showed the same thing. What it showed was that people that drink coffee on a regular basis, they are more protected from dementia. And the 2024 study sorted out something that had been in question forever. Is it the coffee or is it the caffeine?
Right.
Right? And
Right.
now we have our answer, and this new study supports this.
Coffee,
It's
because even the
actually both.
decaffeinated, right? Yeah,
It's
more
actually
helpful.
both. So coffee is good
Ah,
for you, but there are caveats. Number
okay.
1, caffeinated coffee is better for your brain. You can drink decaf coffee, and if if caffeine doesn't agree with you, by all means, this is not a make or break it for your brain health,
Right.
right? But you don't get protection from dementia by drinking decaf. Okay.
Mm,
So caffeinated, unsweetened, and that means no artificial sweeteners too. The
mhm,
UK Biobank study actually looked at this. They looked at what people put in their coffee, which
mm,
is super important
mhm,
because
mhm,
we'd had studies from cultures in Europe where they tend to drink coffee black that had always been very, very positive, but it's not like
mhm.
how we drink coffee in the US,
Right, right,
where
exactly. They all have
we tend
fancy
to make
names.
coffee like an ultra processed food by putting creamers and sugar and non-dairy sweeteners and syrups and I don't even know what else in it. So
Yeah,
no sweeteners or non-nutritive sweeteners, like
gotcha.
artificial sweeteners.
Okay.
And then, the third one is creamers. which is
Mm,
a lot of them are basically junk food. But there's
right.
something about even like the highest quality dairy product, which might be like heavy cream
Mhm.
from a farm that's organic, the dairy fat globules may bind up the polyphenols
Oh,
and
interesting.
steal away from the health benefits of the coffee.
Okay. So even more
And then the
reason to
4th
drink your black
mhm.
coffee. Okay.
Yeah, and the 4th thing is the coffee has to be filtered with a
Yes.
paper filter.
Yes.
Paper
Yes.
filter.
Raise your
Yeah, and
cholesterol
that's
otherwise.
because there are substances in coffee that
Mhm.
can raise LDL cholesterol,
Yep.
and it can be a significant amount if you're battling cholesterol problems and trying to get yours down. And so
Absolutely.
if you use a pod, if you use a French press or an espresso pot, or a coffee machine that has like a cone filter that's made from metal or something that's not paper,
Mhm.
they don't filter out these dipterians.
Mhm. So, I mean, I guess people can, again, like I said, I don't drink coffee, so they could actually pour their coffee through a paper filter if they
Yeah.
choose as well, I suppose.
Absolutely, it's an extra step or just, I advocate going back to just old school pour over coffee,
Yeah. Yeah.
and if you love French press, I would maybe filter it, do that added step, and when it
Gotcha.
comes to pods, I know people love their pods to make coffee, it's very convenient, but I just
Yeah.
don't think that you're getting the same brain health benefits.
Yeah. I know I did on a coffee article, and there was some pods that actually had a little filtering, but I don't know how much. There's
There
actually
is one.
there is one, and it was,
It's called the Green Mountain
yeah, I'll have to
paper
send
filter.
you. Yeah, because I actually went on their website and started looking and see if I could find, because someone asked that question. I'm like, "I don't know. I'm not a pod drinker coffee." So
Yeah.
it made me go down
There is
some
that
rabbit
one
holes.
brand, the green I
Yeah.
think it's called the Green Mountain. It has a
Okay.
little paper filter.
Yeah, perfect. So they're taking care of you. There you go. That's your brain coffee. Um, Another question we have from Christopher is, do you have a multivitamin? If so, recommendations for which one?
Yes, I do. So I highly recommend a brain multivitamin. The one I
Okay.
take is called Relevate. It's from a company called NeuroReserve. And just so you know, I ended up being part of this company because they asked me to be on their scientific advisory board. So I
Okay.
was involved in the early stages of creating the nutrients needed for a brain healthy diet through this Relevate. So Relevate includes omega-3 fatty acids in the
Okay.
just right combination of DHA to EPA.
Okay.
It includes vitamin D, it includes B vitamins, includes choline, lutein, flavonoids, and a whole list of other things. It's a multivitamin in 3 capsules.
Cool.
So when I started taking Relevate, I didn't have to take omega-3s separately from my B vitamins, separately from my vitamin D. All of these are
Right.
very core brain health nutrients that, we wanna get in sufficient amounts.
Gotcha.
And, yeah, and the science on this has become stronger and stronger. We
Okay.
have lots of data on flavonoids and
Yeah.
how they have an impact on a brain healthy diet, and these are just the colorful things that like the little pigments in
Mhm.
plants that make
Yep.
them colorful, and
Yep.
these are actually, like, nutrients are working really hard to support your brain health. So having, like, a little dose of that in your vitamin is not a bad thing. So I recommend Relevate. You could also take a multivitamin that does not include an omega-3, because maybe you
Mhm.
have an omega-3 that you like
Mhm.
separately.
Mhm.
And the one that is most studied is Centrum Silver, one of the
Okay.
largest vitamin or supplement studies ever done was, um, was done 2 years ago. It was the cocoa it was included cocovia, which is
Mm,
cocoa-flavonols, okay?
interesting. Okay.
And what they showed was that the cocovia, didn't really help brain health after 3 months. They didn't study it long enough. But the people that took a multivitamin, they actually had reduced risk of dementia.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So just a Centrum Silver. And so we also have a large study in adults over the age of 65 who take a multivitamin tend to have less dementia than those who don't.
Yeah. So it's like the insurance policy.
Yeah, it's like the kitchen sink approach. Like if you take
Yeah.
all the adults in America over 65 and you put them all in a multivitamin, you're going to catch some that have iron deficiency or folate deficiency or B12 deficiency.
Right.
These just key brain micronutrients. And
Right.
you're going to be treating them for their deficiencies, and everyone else is overtreated.
Yeah. 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 Okay. Perfect. So then another question: if oops, it just disappeared. There it is. Ah, is whole wheat not? If whole wheat is not a favorite, is sourdough, true sourdough, not flavored, a viable alternative?
Yes, sourdough has a particular advantage to being long fermented. And this is
Okay.
what we see when we go to communities that have blue zones, like Sardinia,
Right.
where I spend a lot of time in the small towns in Sardinia, and they eat this sourdough bread or some form of it 3 times a day. They eat it as a flatbread and a couple other forms. It's not like a big loaf of sourdough like we would think in the US.
Okay.
And it's thought that this long fermented way of making bread, the old fashioned way of making
Mhm.
bread, has specific beneficial bacteria, like probiotic bacteria, that enhances gut health and
Mhm.
therefore helps the brain. So it's
Right.
different than us going down to the supermarket and getting, a loaf of bread that is going to last on the counter for a month without getting moldy
Right.
that says sourdough on it.
Right.
We're
Right.
talking about really good homemade bread that you might get from a bakery or you might
Right.
make yourself.
Yeah, or make it yourself. One of my boys loves to make, um, sourdough bread. It's so fun.
Oh, nice.
I was like, "When you make your next loaf?" I need just want a bite.
One
Uh,
of these days, I'm going to start baking bread again. I haven't had
it's a
time in
lot of work.
years. It's a lot of work, but I would consider it as maybe a serving of fermented food. If you were
Mhm.
trying to eat from the brain health pyramid,
Mhm.
you could say, well, I checked off that box because I had a really high quality piece of sourdough bread today.
Perfect. Is Relevate safe for pregnancy and breastfeeding? The
Not
vitamin.
studied, not studied. But omega
Okay.
3s in general, if you talk to your obstetrician, he or she will likely recommend that you take an omega 3 supplement while you're
Okay.
pregnant for lots of
Okay.
reasons.
And the
Preventing preterm
choline,
labor, premature rupture membranes, all that stuff.
all that. Very good. And then we had a question around potassium salts or lower sodium eating. Like, what are your thoughts on the sodium aspects?
Yeah, sodium's really important. So sodium is a nutrient. And some people get too much of it, some people don't get enough. In the US, people tend to get too much sodium, mostly because 70% of our calories come from ultra processed foods. And
Right.
anything that comes packaged or from a fast food outlet is going to have a lot of sodium in it. So most Americans are getting their sodium and they don't even know it, like,
Right.
from these food products.
Right.
So if you start cooking your food from scratch and limiting your processed foods to, like, minimal or every just once in a while foods, then all the sodium you're getting is coming from the whole foods and what you add to it,
Okay.
okay? So people that have, high blood pressure, hypertension, may be told to go on a low sodium diet,
Hmm.
and that's really important. All my recipes are created with that in mind. They're low
Hmm.
sodium, but I also give people the option to add an extra pinch of flaky salt if that's not, an issue for them. Like for example, I have very low blood pressure, and if I don't
Hmm.
get enough salt,
Hmm.
I'll start to pass out.
Wow. Okay.
Because, like, I just, like, really I need it as a nutrient. So I tend to, like, add salt based on my needs. And I think I would love everyone to understand, like, where they stand in
Hmm.
this so that they can kind of, eat for their salt needs.
Yeah. And I would just say always add salt afterwards, not
Mhm.
necessarily or in the recipe itself. I mean, tasting it for sure. Um, Someone is asking, I don't know if you would even know anything about this, but what about Ayurvedic food or particular supplements like amla or ashwagandha, brahmi? I don't know if you want to address that or not.
Yeah, I can't really speak to Ayurvedic medicine because I just don't have
Okay.
any deep, knowledge, expertise of it.
Okay.
Ashwagandha, I did look up. We're doing a supplement roundup on my Substack this month,
Yeah.
and ashwagandha is mostly safe. I look at it as one of those nootropics where, you wouldn't take it, like, every day for the rest of your life,
Yeah.
but you might bring it in during times when you feel like your parasympathetic nervous system is not kicking in for you and that you're in sympathetic overdrive,
Hmm.
like maybe your heart's racing at night, you're not sleeping well, you're under stress, things like
Hmm.
that. And ashwagandha can help. It's worth trying. Any supplement that you buy, I want to make sure you're really fastidious about your source. You want to make sure
Hmm.
it's third party tested for heavy metals. You want to make
Hmm.
sure that it comes from a reputable company. And to figure that out, you just go to their website and you start digging in to see if they cite research papers. And
Hmm.
those papers should be on humans
Hmm.
ideally, and not just rats, which a lot of them
Yeah.
cite animal data.
Consumerlabs.com is a great third party, you know, it costs like, I don't know, $90 a year. And it's well worth it because I get questions all the time. So I go dig in and see what they've actually tested. Um,
Yeah,
so someone
great
is
great
also,
reference.
yeah, it's fantastic. Someone's asking about creatine. I know you did an article on creatine. I just released the second one on creatine. I did one last year. And so creatine, I think we're both in agreement, is very good for
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
Um,
creatine, I'm, like, highly skeptical of supplements, I have to tell you.
yeah,
So
same.
if it makes my list, then I have to be able to be very impressed by the data.
Yeah.
Creatine, I always had solid data in terms of it helping you gain or maintain muscle if you're also weight training. It does
Hmm.
nothing if you're not. And then the last 5 years, I've been following the brain health data with interest, and we've had a handful of really, compelling studies come out recently
Hmm.
looking at how creatine affects the brain, how we get brain creatine levels. I started using creatine a few years ago as a jet lag protocol because I
Hmm.
travel so much and I would double my dose when I was in country for 3 days
Yep.
and found that to be really helpful. And it had been
Same.
studied in military. People in the military for sleep deprivation. Another really cool thing about creatine in the brain is that there was a pilot study looking at people with Alzheimer's
Yep.
and how it helps with their thinking skills. And it was positive in that it was a very, very small study, but they didn't have any adverse reactions. So these
Yep.
people living with Alzheimer's could take it. And also, there was a slight improvement in their cognitive symptoms. So
Right.
that needs to be, put into a randomized controlled trial. There's
Right.
some compelling data on women during perimenopause, although we need to see more of that.
Hmm.
It
Absolutely.
doesn't, as far as we know, it doesn't help with perimenopausal symptoms, but if it helps you maintain strength and fitness during perimenopause and maybe sleep, then I'd say it's, a no-brainer too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's pretty good. We have a question here. Lisa is asking if one cannot eat beans due to digestive issues, what would you replace it with or eat more of?
Well, beans are so good for you because, well, lots of reasons. But number one, they are rich in a type of fiber that your gut bacteria just love. Okay,
Hmm.
so when you're eating beans or you're feeding your gut microbiome, they tend to be the kind of fiber that gets to the lower intestine, where a lot of the gut bugs don't get as much nourishment because things are so processed, no nutrients get that far. And so it's really hard to replace it, honestly. But
Hmm.
there are other things that are high in fiber that would also be like really good choices, like cruciferous vegetables, leafy greens, whole grains. Nuts have fiber, seeds have fiber. Fiber is really important. We want to make sure that our gut is seeing lots of different varieties of fiber. And so that, like, all the different colonies down there, all the different pods are getting well fed.
Right.
And if you think you can't eat beans, I would maybe just try a little experiment. Get some chickpea flour from the grocery store that's fresh, that hasn't been
Hmm.
sitting on, like, a shelf for ages, and just start taking a quarter cup of it and replace it for flour in your baked goods. And maybe introducing it that slowly, you might find that you develop, a tolerance to it and you can actually eat it.
Yeah, I've been strictly plant based for 14 years. And so it's a really common question. So, one thing that I would suggest is you start with lentils in a very small amount and cook them well. And then as you tolerate, just slowly increase that amount. And then you can move on to the other beans. But don't go straight to black beans or some of these other more hardy beans. But that might be super helpful as
Yeah.
well.
Especially
Um,
the red lentils, the ones that fall apart
yes,
really easily when they cook, are lower in fiber and will be more
exactly.
easily
And you
digested.
don't have to soak them. If you don't have to soak a bean, it's the lentils. But the lentils are great and they're high in protein. They're fantastic for you. So, we did have a question regarding someone's asking about what about milk products?
Yeah, dairy products, big can of worms in the brain health world. I did a mini series on this recently where we dug into cheese and yogurt and milk and,
Yeah,
what are the best dairy products for your brain.
right.
And the data is not as good as I would like it, but there's enough studies and enough randomized trials to say a few things about dairy. Okay.
Okay.
The top milk for brain health turned out to be soy milk.
Oh, fantastic. Okay.
But which is great because and it has the edge because it can also help lower LDL cholesterol,
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
like everything else in the bean world.
Right.
But cow's milk was not that far behind,
Interesting. Okay.
surprisingly, because it's also like a good source of protein.
Hmm.
And, you can choose it to get lower, no non-fat, depending on your health, situation.
Right.
Organic, I highly recommend organic dairy products. After talking to Dr. Ray Dorsey, author of the Parkinson's Plan, he's a
Okay.
neurologist who, has written papers for the last several years about our pesticide exposure and the
Yeah.
risk of Parkinson's are strongly linked,
Yeah.
and dairy
Yeah.
products especially are linked to Parkinson's because of the
Interesting.
pesticide exposure and because
Yeah.
it's concentrated in the fat of the animal. So organic dairy all the way. I don't even think about it anymore going non-organic.
Okay.
I think that's really important for brain health. And then the other dairy products that really stand out would be things like yogurt. But
Hmm.
yogurt's one of those foods that can be like a horrible ultra-processed food with tons of sugar and flavorings and really
Yeah.
nothing good for you in it, or
Yeah.
it can be like super, super great. So
Right.
go for, high quality, unsweetened, unflavored. Choose the fat content based on your health goals. Again,
Hmm.
cottage cheese, same thing. Great source of protein. Also can be a fermented food. Look for the colony counts, the CFUs on the label,
Yep.
and that counts as a fermented food.
Absolutely.
Um, Kefir, same thing.
Okay.
So there are really high quality dairy products. Most of them are fermented. Of the plant based ones, I didn't find a lot of evidence to show that they were beneficial for you.
Gotcha. Yeah, soy milk is fantastic alternative. It's because you mentioned interesting you mentioned the pesticides and Parkinson's. I think people who lived within, was it a mile of golf courses,
Yeah.
had increased risk. It's like there's
Yeah,
a
that
golf
was out
course.
of
Like
Dr.
where are we?
Dorsey's papers. I know, I know.
They're everywhere.
I live within a mile of a golf course, but it has to do with the pesticides that seep into the water.
Yep.
If you share the water supply, it's even double. So it's not like
Jeez.
plant milks are bad. It's not like they're like bad for you. If you enjoy like a cashew milk or an almond milk, it's totally fine. It's totally fine.
Hmm.
I personally drink mostly soy or cashew milk that I make myself.
Yep.
Okay, so it doesn't have anything in it that's artificial because I'm making it myself in a nut milk maker or a blender.
Yeah.
And my nut milk is so dense with nuts, it's like having a serving of nuts. I make it so that each cup is like a quarter cup of nuts.
The cream.
Yeah, and I use it to cook with and everything like that. So, like, it can be really healthy, but most of the stuff at the grocery store, it's made to look healthy, it has a health halo,
Yeah.
but there's very few almonds in that carton of almond milk at the grocery store.
Exactly. And I'd say oat milk is probably the worst of them all because they have added oil, added sugars. It's, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I tried to make oat milk myself for my book, and it was so hard to make it. Like,
Yeah. Just
amazingly,
water. Mm.
I gave it
Mm.
up. It was like it comes out slimy. There's all these steps you have to do. I was like, "No, no. If it's gonna be
True.
too many steps, I don't wanna do it."
Yeah, Deborah's asking, mention the site again to check supplements. Oh, it's consumerlabs.com. Consumerlab.com. Yeah.
Great resource.
And Margot's asking, can you mix creatine with herbal ginger tea?
I think so.
I would think
Um,
so.
I think so. I think you can mix it with most anything but a caffeinated beverage.
Mm,
And the data on that is not super, super solid, but there's enough to say that caffeine may steal away from the absorption of the creatine.
okay.
I don't
I
really like
know.
people to put anything in their coffee,
Yeah,
but,
it's like it's
it
one
is
way. It's
it
one more
is
thing to get it done.
convenient. So what I
Yeah.
do, and this is what Dr. Darren Candow does. He's the researcher from Canada who's done, like, hundreds of studies on creatine. He's
Yeah.
the top researcher on it. So Dr. Candow, what he does currently is he has his coffee in the morning, he has breakfast, and then he puts his creatine in his water bottle for the rest of
Mm,
the day. And that's
mm,
exactly what I do. I space it
mhm,
out from my coffee.
mm. Yeah. Well, I don't drink coffee, so I'm good there. I just put in my
Pretty good there.
oatmeal. Just mix it up in the oatmeal every morning.
Yeah, you can put it in oatmeal, you can put it in your yogurt.
Smoothie.
Um,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What do you feel about someone's asking about sprouted grains, sprouted oats, and sprouted lentils?
I think sprouting is fun. When I was researching my book, I didn't find any particular brain health benefits to doing it that way. I know that the idea behind it is that you reduce anti-nutrients
Okay.
in the nuts and the seeds and the grains, but I think that these are not really an issue for most people. Some
Okay.
people it might be, so it might be worth it. But for the general person, the anti-nutrients in these foods are just like a drop in the bucket, and they're there for a reason. They're actually a
Okay.
lot of them are flavonoids and brain health nutrients that I don't want to get rid of. So,
Right.
but I think sprouting is fun, and I like the flavor. Like
Yeah.
a sprouted grain.
It is different. I like it too.
Yeah.
Interesting. Cool. Okay, well, I know we've already gone kind of past our time, but there's lots of other questions. But guys, definitely check out Dr. Annie's, the Health Kitchen Substack, and then her book. Your book was also called The
The
Brain.
Brain Health Kitchen. The Brain
Brain
Health
Health Kitchen. Can
Kitchen.
you show us the
Sorry, mine
perfect?
is so tattered.
No, I love it. If you could
Mental
send me
health
the link,
partners perfect.
I'm assuming it's on Amazon. People can order it on Amazon and wherever books are
It's
ordered.
back in stock on Amazon. Amazon sold
Okay,
out over the holidays,
that's awesome. Okay.
which is awesome. Yeah, but they're back.
All right, I will put that link from Amazon, and then of course, you guys, if you want to check other places, bookstores, of course. But thank you, Dr. Fenn, for this amazing conversation. Oh, it was fantastic for the first Brain Health Summit ever. I think this is the only first summit ever on Substack. So if you guys know the Substack people, tell them, hey, we're doing something special over here.
It's such a
Share
good
our stuff.
idea, and I love being able to collaborate with the other brain health experts on Substack.
Yeah.
It's great. It's just great. Thank you so much for having me. And
Well,
thanks
thank you
everybody for
again.
joining us.
Yes, thank you everyone for spending your time with us. And we could have kept going for a bit, I'm sure. But
Another
I I asked for 30 minutes. I got 41, so I'm feeling thankful here. So thanks everyone again for being here. And we'll be back tomorrow with Dr. Judd Brewer, and that'll be fun too. So again, thanks everyone. We appreciate you. Thanks, Annie.
Bye.
Bye.